You're currently living through the biggest psychological experiment in the history of money. We've replaced the pain of paying with a dopamine hit, which is why your bank account is shrinking in silence. It's called the digital friction gap. When money is just a number on a screen, the pain centers in your brain never fire. You aren't just spending, you're losing a war against your own psychology. But a 30% leak isn't just a monthly annoyance. Over a career, it's a 50 lakh rupee wealth gap. To show you exactly how that math plays out, I want you to meet two people who started with the same salary and the same apps. On the left, we have Rahul, who recognized this invisible drain early. On the right, Aryan, who did everything right but ignored the friction. Their lives look identical today, but in 20 years, they'll be worlds apart. We built ZrrRing to make finance simple, so your lifestyle can get an upgrade. Today we're installing the manual override that saved Rahul's future. Let's look at the math they didn't teach you in school. Welcome back. Today, we're opening a file that, and I'll be honest, it scares me a little bit. Now, I know what you're thinking. Scared of personal finance? Unless you have a specific phobia of compound interest or Excel sheets, I think you'll be fine. But it's not the math that's scary. It's the stack of research I've been looking at. Behavioral psychology papers, the settle by boom articles, pointing to a very uncomfortable reality about how we live right now. What I'm talking about is the gap. The disconnect between what we earn and what we actually keep. Exactly that. We're in March 2026 with more tools to manage money than any generation in human history. I can buy a stock while waiting for my coffee in Indiranagar. And yet, a recent report from HGSE Life shows that over 40% of people feel more financial anxiety than they did 5 years ago. It's like we have the fastest cars, but we've forgotten how to drive. But why? Why, when we have automation, high yield accounts, and AI advisors, are we still living paycheck to paycheck? The answer isn't in the math, it's in the sequence. We've been taught to pay everyone else first. Think about it. Salary hits the account, rent goes out, the EMI for the car goes out, Zomato takes its cut, the gym membership you barely use, that goes out. And what's left? Whatever is left over is what we save. But here's the problem. Human nature ensures that leftover usually equals zero. This is the leftover trap. It's the reason why even people earning six figures can feel like they're drowning. So today, I want to talk about the only rule that actually works, the rule that turns the math on its head. I'm talking about pay yourself first. It sounds simple, right? Almost too simple. But the psychology behind it is what makes it a superpower. Most people see savings as a punishment, as money I can't spend. But when you pay yourself first, you aren't saving. You're buying. You're buying your future freedom. To really understand the power of this, let's look at the story of two friends, Rahul and Aryan. Rahul decided to pay himself first. The moment his salary hit, 15,000 went straight into an automated investment account. He didn't even see it. He lived his life on the remaining 60,000. He adjusted his rent, his lifestyle, everything to fit that 60K. Aryan, on the other hand, was a leftover guy. He told himself, I'll save whatever is left at the end of the month. And because Aryan had 75,000 in his account, he spent like a man with 75,000. Better apartment, more weekend trips, the latest iPhone. By the end of the month, Aryan usually had about 2,000 rupees left, sometimes zero. Now, you might think, well, Rahul is missing out, Aryan is living the life. But let's fast forward just 5 years, to 2029. Rahul's 15,000 a month, growing at a modest 12%, has turned into nearly 12 lakh rupees. But it's not just the money, it's the psychology. Rahul now has FU money. If his boss is toxic, he can leave. If he wants to start a side hustle, he has the runway. He doesn't feel the March 2026 anxiety we talked about. So that's our mission today, to decode that structure. We're talking about the concept of pay yourself first, which, I have to admit, has always sounded like a bit of a self-help cliche. I get the skepticism. Does pay yourself first mean I buy myself a nice watch before I pay the electricity bill? Because that just sounds like a recipe for getting your power cut off. And that is the most common misconception. Frankly, it's why so many people get this whole thing wrong. Pay yourself first isn't about treating your current self to some luxury. It's about recognizing that your future self, the you of 2036 or 2046, is your most important creditor. It means routing money to savings before the landlord, before the electricity board, and definitely before Zomato or Swiggy get their cut. Let's unpack this. Looking at the data we have here, the context is actually quite alarming. We mentioned that 5.3% savings rate. Why is it dropping so much? Is it just inflation? Inflation is a piece of the puzzle for sure, but the bigger issue is consumption friction, or really the lack of it. In 2026, spending money is completely frictionless. It's instant tap and pay, exactly. But saving money? That still feels like a chore. It feels like an action you have to consciously take. The pay yourself first principle is the only way to reintroduce friction into spending and remove it from saving. Okay, let's go right to the beginning then. Scene 1. The first paycheck. 60,000 rupees credits into the account. It feels infinite, doesn't it? It's the biggest number Rahul and Aryan have ever seen with their own name on it. Totally. So let's look at Aryan. He adopts what we're calling the leftover strategy. Aryan thinks, I've got 60k, my rent is 15k, I'll spend on what I need, and whatever is left on the 30th, I'll invest. Now look at Rahul. Rahul uses the pay yourself first rule. He set up an automatic transfer. The second that 60k hits, 10,000 is gone. Move to a separate wealth account. Before he even buys a coffee, before he sees it. To Rahul, his salary isn't 60,000, it's 50,000. That's the mental shift. Now, here's where it gets interesting. It's the second week of the month. Both guys want the same thing, the new AirPods Pro 3. Aryan looks at his app. He spent 10k on rent and food so far. He sees 50,000 in his balance. He thinks, I'm rich, 25k for AirPods? No problem. Rahul looks at his app. He spent the same 10k. But because that 10k already went to his future self, he sees 40,000. He thinks, man, 25k for headphones when I only have 40k for the rest of the month? That's over half my budget. Maybe I'll wait. Do you see what happened? The constraint changed the behavior. Aryan isn't a spendthrift and Rahul isn't a miser. They just have different perceived balances. But wait, it gets even better. Let's talk about the end of month stress test. It's the 28th. Aryan has 1,200 rupees left. He's eating Maggie and waiting for the first. He didn't save a single rupee this month because things came up. Rahul also has 1,200 rupees left. He's also eating Maggie. But here's the difference. Rahul has already saved 10,000 rupees. He's already won the month. He feels the same broke feeling at the end of the month as Aryan, but his net worth actually went up. This is why pay yourself first is often called the only invisible wealth strategy that actually works for humans. Because we are terrible at resisting temptation, but we are amazing at adapting to constraints. If you give a human a 100 ml glass, they'll drink 100 ml. If you give them a 50 ml glass, they'll drink 50 ml and be just as hydrated. Your bank account is that glass. So, how do we actually do this without failing by the third month? Because willpower is a limited resource. Think about it. By 8 p.m., you're tired, you're sitting on the couch, and you're scrolling through a shopping app. At that moment, your decision-making battery is at zero. You have no resistance left. If you're like Aryan, you're relying on willpower to save at the exact moment your willpower is at its absolute weakest. Whereas Rahul, he took willpower completely out of the equation. He automated the most important decision. Research shows that most resistance to this comes from either not trusting the tech or just plain old behavioral inertia. But once you overcome that initial friction, once you set that e-mandate, you are protecting your future self from your present self. I love this phrase. You cannot save what you can see. If that money is just sitting there in your savings account, staring at you, you will find a reason to spend it. It will become a new pair of shoes, a night out, or that necessary phone upgrade. It's almost guaranteed. But if you can't see it, you don't miss it. That's why the only formula that works in the real world isn't income minus expenses equals savings. It's income minus savings equals expenses. That small flip changes everything. So, Rahul is saving roughly 20 to 25% of his income right off the bat. That's impressive. But let's challenge this. We've all heard of the famous 50-30-20 rule, right? 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings. Is that the gold standard we should be aiming for here in India? The truth is, that rule was popularized in the US, but our reality in 2026, with our rent, our food inflation, and our specific social pressures, is a bit different. So, How do we adapt it? Let's look back at Rahul's breakdown. He earns 60,000. 12,000 goes to his future self, that's 20%. Now he has 48,000 left for everything else. People would say, Zoya, I can't live on 48,000. My rent alone is 20,000. And that's exactly where the pay yourself first magic happens. It forces a lifestyle audit that you would otherwise ignore. When Rahul only has 48k in his spending bucket, he suddenly realizes he doesn't need that premium gym membership that's 40 minutes away. He switches to a local park and a 500 rupee app. Boom, he just found 3,000 rupees. This isn't about deprivation, it's about intentionality. Aryan, because he has the full 60k sitting there, never feels the pinch that forces him to make those better choices. He spends the extra 12,000 on things he won't even remember in 3 months. Now, I want to address the biggest hurdle, the first month pain. That first month you pay yourself first, it's going to suck. I'm not going to lie to you. You're going to feel like you've taken a pay cut because mentally you have. You'll have to say no to that Friday night plan. You'll have to skip the extra order of wings. But here is the secret that no one tells you. The human brain adapts to a lower budget in exactly 21 days. By month 2, you won't even notice the 12,000 is gone. You'll just be the person who earns 48k and lives a great life. Now, for a 22-year-old who actually wants to have a life, this requires serious discipline. But wait until you see the next bucket, 30% for essentials. This covers your rent, groceries, and transport. Now, I know what you're thinking. Whoa, stop the car. 30% for essentials? Rent in Bengaluru can easily be 40% of your salary. How is anyone supposed to live on 30% for everything? I'm glad you're pushing back on that because you're absolutely right. It is aggressive. It's arguably painful. But here is the nuance. When we say essentials, we're assuming choices have been made. What kind of choices? The choice to share an apartment with 2 other people. The choice to live 5 kilometers further out and take the metro every day instead of an Uber. If Aryan insists on living alone in a premium society in Indiranagar, his rent alone is 25,000 rupees down. Boom. He's already broken the model before he's even bought a single meal. So, this model basically forces a lifestyle audit from the very beginning. It forces a choice. It makes you prioritize. If you want to prioritize your future wealth, you have to compromise on your present luxury. You can't have the fancy apartment and the financial freedom at age 22. It's one or the other. Okay, so let's assume Rahul makes those compromises. He lives with roommates and eats a lot of home-cooked dal chawal. Now, he's at 30% for essentials. That's 18,000 rupees. That leaves him with 20% or 12,000 rupees for wants. 12,000 rupees for the wants bucket. That's your movies, your shopping, your weekend trips. To some, 12,000 sounds like a lot. To others, it's one Friday night out in South Mumbai or Indiranagar. This is where the 50-30-20 rule, or our adjusted version, becomes a lifestyle guide rather than just a budget. It tells you exactly how much fun you are allowed to have without sabotaging your future. But what happens when life happens? The essentials are fine, the wants are fun, but then the car breaks down, or your phone screen shatters. This is why we need the emergency buffer. Before you even get to the 50-30-20, you need a foundation. Most experts say 3 to 6 months of expenses. For Rahul, that's roughly 1.5 lakh rupees. If Rahul tries to save for that and invest his 12,000 a month, it's going to take him over a year just to build the buffer. That's where people get discouraged. They think, I'm saving all this money and I'm still not investing in the market. But here is the secret. An emergency fund is an investment. It's an investment in your own peace of mind. It's the sleep well at night fund. Because when you have that buffer, a flat tire is just an annoyance, not a financial tragedy. Now, let's look at Aryan. Aryan thinks emergency funds are for old people. He spends his leftover money on a weekend trip to Goa. He has a blast. He's living for the now. But on Tuesday morning, his laptop, which he needs for work, dies. The repair cost? 15,000 rupees. Aryan doesn't have 15,000 rupees. So what does he do? He pulls out the credit card. And just like that, Aryan is no longer just not saving. He's actively losing. He's paying 40% interest on that laptop repair. His future self is now paying for his past self's weekend in Goa. This is the debt cycle. And once you're in it, it's 10 times harder to start paying yourself first. So, step 1, build the buffer. Even if it's just 25,000 rupees to start, give yourself a safety net. Now, let's talk about the EPF. It earns a fixed interest rate, usually around 8.15% to 8.25%, which is actually fantastic for the risk level. For those of you who are really risk averse, here's a pro tip. The Voluntary Provident Fund, or VPF. You might be wondering, what exactly is that? Well, it's a hidden gem. You can actually go to your HR department and ask them to deduct more than the mandatory 12%. You can contribute up to 100% of your basic salary into the VPF if you want. It earns the exact same interest rate as your EPF, which is usually higher than any bank fixed deposit, and it's tax-free up to a certain limit. But wait, before you go and put every rupee into VPF, we have to talk about the growth bucket. This is the 20% that actually builds wealth. This is the money that goes into the market: mutual funds, index funds, equity. This is where you fight the inflation monster. Because here is the math that keeps me up at night. If inflation is at 6%, then your 10,000 rupees today is only worth about 9,400 rupees next year. You're losing money just by holding it. That's why savings isn't enough. You need investing. Let's look at Aryan. Aryan saves by keeping his leftover 2,000 rupees in a regular savings account. He thinks he's being smart. But his savings account is giving him 3%. Inflation is 6%. Aryan is actually getting 3% poorer every year. Now look at Rahul. Rahul's 10,000 is in an index fund. Historically, that's 12% growth. 12% growth minus 6% inflation? Rahul is getting 6% richer in real terms. This is the pay yourself first multiplier. It's not just about the amount, it's about the velocity of that money. But I know what you're thinking. Zoya, the market is scary. What if it crashes? That's the most common fear I hear. And that's where we need to talk about the time horizon trick. If you look at the market for one day, it's a gamble. If you look at it for 10 years, it's math. Rahul isn't checking his app every day. He's automated the transfer and then he forgets about it. He has strategic ignorance. He knows the system is working, so he doesn't need to watch it. Aryan, because he hasn't automated, has to decide to invest every month. Every month, he sees that 2,000 rupees and thinks, maybe this month I'll just spend it. The market looks shaky today anyway. He lets the noise stop the math. So, we've got the 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings. But how do we actually start? Step 0. The financial audit. You cannot fix what you cannot measure. For the next 7 days, I want you to track every single rupee that leaves your account. Even the 10 rupees for the chai. You'll be shocked at how much leakage there is. This is the money that is neither a need nor a want. It's just waste. Rahul did this audit. He found 4,500 rupees of leakage. That's almost half of his 10,000 rupee goal. He didn't have to work harder. He just had to stop the leaks. Once you stop the leaks, the pay yourself first amount doesn't feel like a sacrifice anymore. It feels like a discovery. Now, let's get into the actual apps and tools. How do we automate this in 2026? Exactly. You didn't try to predict the Apple market. You didn't try to time it. You just spent your 100 rupees consistently. But notice what happened. You automatically bought more when they were cheap, 5 apples, and you bought fewer when they were expensive, only 2. Average cost per apple ends up much lower than the average market price over those 2 months. That right there, that is rupee cost averaging. You win by being consistent, not by being a genius. Honestly, I think that should be on a t-shirt. Okay, let's add the final layer. Layer 4, the liquidity layer. Because life happens, right? What if Aryan needs cash for a real emergency? Is all his money supposed to be locked up in pension funds and the stock market? No. That's where the secret weapon comes in. One that's amazing how few people actually use. I'm talking about auto sweep facilities. Most major Indian banks like SBI, HDFC or Axis offer this. They might call it money multiplier or flexifix, but the underlying mechanic is the same. So, how does it work? Let me walk you through the user experience. You set a threshold, say 25,000 rupees. Anything above that in your savings account automatically sweeps into a fixed deposit to earn higher interest. But here's the magic. If you swipe your card for 30,000, the bank instantly sweeps that money back to cover the transaction. No penalties, no paperwork. It gives you the interest of an FD with the liquidity of a savings account. It's the ultimate pay yourself first hack for your operating cash. But now, let's look at the lifestyle creep trap. This is what destroys most people as they get promoted. Let's say Aryan gets a raise. He's now earning 90,000 rupees instead of 60,000. What does he do? Aryan immediately moves into a bigger apartment. He upgrades his car. He starts eating at more expensive restaurants. His essentials bucket, which was 18,000, is now 40,000. His wants, which were 12,000, are now 30,000. He still has zero left over. He's still living paycheck to paycheck, just in a nicer neighborhood. Now look at Rahul. Rahul gets the same raise to 90,000. But Rahul has a raise rule. His rule is 50% of any raise goes directly to his future self. The other 50% can be used to improve his current life. So, out of his 30,000 raise, 15,000 is added to his monthly investment. Now he's investing 25,000 a month, and he still has 15,000 left to upgrade his life. He can get a nicer gym or a better commute. He is getting richer and living better simultaneously. That is how you defeat lifestyle creep. It's about setting the rules before the money hits your account. Because once the money is there, your brain will find a reason to spend it. Now, I want to talk about the mental budget versus the app budget. Why do most apps fail us? Because they track what you did. They are a post-mortem of your failures. Pay yourself first is a pre-mortem. You decide the success before the month even starts. When Rahul pays himself on the first, he has already won the month. Everything after that is just managing the leftovers. It completely removes the guilt of spending. If Rahul wants to buy a 500 rupee coffee with his wants money, he can. He knows his future is secure. He's already paid that creditor. Aryan, meanwhile, feels guilty every time he spends because he knows deep down he hasn't saved anything yet. Now, everyone loves a good bonus, right? Let's imagine both our guys, Rahul and Aryan, get a decent 50,000 rupees performance bonus at the same time. Now, Aryan immediately falls into a very common psychological trap called mental accounting. He sees this bonus as found money. Because it's outside his normal monthly salary, his brain tricks him into thinking it's free money that can be spent frivolously. So, he decides he needs a new phone. Of course. But he doesn't just buy a 50,000 rupees phone. He goes for the 1,50,000 rupees flagship model. You might ask, wait, with what money? He only has a 50,000 rupee bonus. Well, he uses that bonus as a down payment and puts the rest on a no-cost EMI. No-cost EMI, the three most dangerous words in the English language, truly. Now Aryan hasn't just spent his entire bonus, he's also added a monthly commitment of roughly 10,000 rupees to his future paychecks for the next year. This is classic lifestyle inflation. He's upgrading his lifestyle to match or even exceed his income spikes. Now, what about Rahul? What does he do with his bonus? Rahul sticks to his rule. 50% of the bonus, 25,000 rupees, goes directly into his future self bucket. He invests it immediately. The other 25,000 rupees? That's his play money. He uses it for something he really wants, but within that limit. He gets the hit of the purchase without the hangover of the debt. By the time the next bonus comes around, Rahul's 25,000 rupees investment has already started growing. Aryan is still paying for a phone that's already half obsolete. Now, let's talk about the ghost of subscriptions. This is the subtle version of the bonus trap. In 2026, we don't just buy things, we rent our lives. 199 here, 499 there. Individually, they are invisible, but collectively, they are a financial leak the size of a monsoon flood. Rahul does a subscription purge every 6 months. If he hasn't used it in 30 days, it's gone. He found that he was paying for a premium meditation app he never opened. The irony, he was literally paying for stress he didn't have. By cutting 3 unused subs, he saved another 1,200 rupees a month. Over 10 years at 12%, that's almost 2.5 lakh rupees. For what? For 3 apps he didn't even use. That is the cost of financial friction working against you. Now, let's get into the goal-based buckets. Because saving for the sake of saving is boring. Your brain needs a reason to say no to the present self. It needs a why. Rahul's why is a trip to Japan in 2027. Every time he skips a random delivery order, he thinks, that's another bowl of authentic ramen in Tokyo. Suddenly, the sacrifice doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It feels like a trade. Aryan doesn't have a why. He just has money I haven't spent yet. And because he doesn't have a destination for that money, someone else, a marketer, a shop, an algorithm, will give it one for him. If you don't tell your money where to go, you'll wonder where it went. So, action item for today. Define your why. Give your buckets a name. Because the pay yourself first rule is just a tool. Your dreams, they are the fuel. Next, we're going to look at the hidden fees that the banks don't want you to see. Because he spent his leftovers on the latest phone, he has no savings. No auto sweep, no buffer, nothing. Now, his only option is to take a high-interest personal loan. In India, personal loans can easily be 14 to 16% interest. So now, he has an EMI for the fancy phone and a massive, painful EMI for the emergency loan. He is now working for the bank. Every morning he wakes up. The first few hours of his labor belong to the bank, not to him. Rahul, on the other hand, has been building his emergency fund this whole time through his liquid funds and his auto sweep facility. He has the cash ready. He pays for the surgery upfront. No interest, no debt, no stress. The stress difference between those two situations is just palpable. While Aryan is losing sleep and his work is suffering, Rahul is focused entirely on his family's recovery. This is the ultimate de-stressor. Financial sovereignty isn't really about buying a Ferrari. It's about being able to handle a major life crisis without losing your dignity. It's about owning your time. And pay yourself first is the price of admission for that ownership. So I want to talk about the myth of the big break. This is what Aryan keeps waiting for. Aryan thinks, I'll start saving once I get that big promotion or once my startup idea takes off. He is waiting for a step function in his wealth. But wealth isn't a step function, it's a compound curve. If you wait for the big break to start, you miss out on the most valuable resource you have, time. Rahul understands that 1,000 rupees invested at age 22 is worth more than 10,000 rupees invested at age 32. That's a 10x difference just for starting a decade earlier. You can't earn your way out of lost time. So, if you're waiting for the perfect time to pay yourself first, this is it. Today. Even if it's just 500 rupees. Start the automation, build the muscle, because automation beats willpower every single time. Now, let's look at the tax trap. This is the hidden thief that that I really hate. In India, as you earn more, the government takes more. 5%, 20%, 30%. If you don't pay yourself first through tax-saving instruments, you are effectively giving the government a tip you can't afford. Rahul uses Section 80C to the max. 1.5 lakh rupees a year. He puts money into ELSS, equity-linked saving schemes. Not only does he save tax, but that money also grows in the market. It's a double whammy of wealth building. Aryan, on the other hand, pays the full tax and then complains about it. He says, the government is stealing my money, but he didn't use the tools the government gave him to keep it. It's like complaining about getting wet in the rain when you have an umbrella in your hand and you just refuse to open it. So, don't be Aryan, use the umbrella. Pay yourself first into tax-saving instruments before the taxman gets there. Now, let's talk about the investment portfolio itself. What should it actually look like for a 20-something in 2026? It's not about picking the next big stock. It's about asset allocation. For those in the gig economy or freelancers, there are so many digital traps. When you get paid digitally, the money feels less real. We call these invisible leaks. Things like subscription creep, where you have 10 different subs you forgot about, or the rise of BNPL, buy now, pay later. That stuff is everywhere now. It frames debt as convenience, but it's incredibly predatory. For freelancers especially, you should avoid BNPL like the plague. My rule is simple. If you can't pay for it in full today, you can't afford it. Speaking of debt, let's tackle the elephant in the room, the debt trap. A very common question I get is this. Zoya, I have credit card debt, but I also feel like I should be investing. Should I start an SIP? My answer to that is an emphatic, absolute no. Now you might think, wait, not even a small one, like 500 rupees just to get into the habit? No, this isn't about habits. This is about simple, brutal math. It's a concept called negative arbitrage. Think about it. Your credit card is charging you 36% to 42% interest per year. Your mutual fund is hoping to give you 12% to 15%. You are literally paying the bank 42 rupees to earn 12 rupees. You are losing 30 rupees every year for every 100 you invest. Investing while having high interest debt is like trying to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. Your priority 1, 2, and 3 is to kill that debt. That is your best investment because it's a guaranteed 40% return. Think about it. Every rupee of debt you pay off is a rupee you no longer have to pay 40% interest on. That is a guaranteed win. Once that debt is gone, then you take that same EMI amount and turn it into an SIP. That's when the magic happens. Let's talk about the emergency fund paradox. People ask, if I have debt, should I still build an emergency fund first? This is the only time I'll tell you to delay debt repayment. You need a starter emergency fund of at least 25,000 rupees. Why? Because if you have zero savings and your car breaks down, you'll just go deeper into debt to fix it. The starter fund is your debt protection shield. It breaks the cycle. Once you have that 25k, you go into aggressive debt kill mode. Now, let's look at segment 7, the automated life setup. How do you actually build this? Step 1. Open 2 separate bank accounts, one for operations and one for growth. Your salary hits operations. Your pay yourself first amount leaves for growth within 24 hours. You don't even get a chance to think about it. If you have to manually transfer it, you've already lost. Step 2. Set up an e-mandate for your mutual funds to trigger on the 2nd of every month. Most people wait for the 5th or 10th. Don't. Pay yourself while the high of getting paid is still there. Step 3. Delete your credit card info from your favorite shopping apps. Reintroduce friction. Now, let's look at the ultimate destination. It's 2034, 10 years since our two friends started their journeys. Aryan is now 32. He has had 3 promotions. He's earning 2.5 lakh rupees a month. But because he never automated, his lifestyle creep was 1-to-1. He has a luxury SUV, a huge apartment, and exactly 4 lakh rupees in his savings. If he loses his job tomorrow, he is 60 days away from total financial collapse. He is a high-earning prisoner. Now look at Rahul. Rahul is also earning 2.5 lakhs. He lives in a nice apartment but not a penthouse. He drives a reliable EV, not a luxury SUV. But because he paid himself first for 10 years, scaling up his investments with every raise, his portfolio is now worth over 1.2 crore rupees. Rahul isn't just saving, he has freedom money. If he wants to quit and start his own venture, he can. If he wants to take a sabbatical for a year, he can. He is the owner of his own time. The difference between Rahul and Aryan isn't their intelligence. It isn't even their salary. It's that Rahul treated himself like his most important bill. He paid himself before the world could take its cut. So, I have a challenge for you today. Don't wait for the next month. Don't wait for the next raise. Open your banking app right now. Look at your recurring payments. Find one leak, just one, cancel it, and then take that exact amount, even if it's just 199 rupees, and set up an automated transfer to a separate account. You have just started your journey from being a consumer to being a capitalist. A consumer pays everyone else. A capitalist owns the machines that everyone else pays. By investing that 199 rupees into an index fund, you are now a part owner of the biggest companies in the country. When someone buys a SIM card or a car or a coffee, a tiny fraction of that profit now belongs to you. That is the pay yourself first lifestyle. It's moving from the side of the table that pays to the side of the table that earns. It starts with one automation, one choice, one no to the present that becomes a yes to the future. I'm Zoya, and I want you to remember, your future self is counting on you. Don't leave them with the leftovers. Pay them first. See you in the next deep dive. Numbers come and go, but first, join the movement. Hit subscribe to start building wealth like a pro. Don't forget to share this video and remember, your net worth is your network. Don't climb alone. Got questions? We respond to everyone. We'll see you in the next video.